Hey everyone, welcome back to Awful Stories. It's Matt here, and make sure to drop a like and subscribe to not miss your daily fix on Reddit stories. Let's jump into our first post in the True Off My Chest subreddit. The post is titled, My boyfriend's 10-year-old son came to live with us after months of abuse, and it's breaking my heart watching him try to feel safe. I don't even really know how to start this. My boyfriend's 10-year-old son came to live with us recently after being taken out of his mom's house because of horrible abuse from her boyfriend. We always had our suspicions that something wasn't right over there, but we had no idea just how bad it really was until CPS got involved. Her boyfriend had been locking him in a cupboard, actually making him sleep in there at night. He'd withhold food, hit him, scream at him, and call him names. He told this little boy awful things. Before anyone wonders why his dad didn't step in sooner, it wasn't because he didn't care. He's always loved his son and wanted to be in his life, but his ex made it nearly impossible. She constantly moved without telling him, blocked his number, and even lied to the court about where she was living. She's also been struggling with pills for a long time, and that's when everything really started to fall apart. When she was using heavily, she'd disappear for days or let her boyfriend handle everything. And that's when most of the abuse happened. My boyfriend tried to fight for custody, but every time he got close, she would vanish again or make up some story. It wasn't until recently that she finally resurfaced. And that's when CPS got involved and everything came to light. The guilt eats him up. He's been living with us for about 3 months now. He's safe, he's loved, he has his own bed and room and food whenever he's hungry. But you can tell he still doesn't believe it. He acts like every kind gesture is a trick. He's such a gentle kid, so sweet and careful, but he's also constantly on edge. If someone shuts a door too hard, he jumps out of his skin. If anyone raises their voice, even if it's just laughing loudly or calling out from another room, he goes completely still. He also apologizes constantly. He says it for everything, dropping something, bumping into a chair, even just asking for a snack. It's like he's wired to expect punishment for existing. The sleeping situation is the hardest part. We tried to make his room special, but almost every night, I find him curled up under the kitchen sink. I asked him once why he liked it there, and he told me softly, No one can find me here. It's quiet, I didn't even know what to say. I just sat on the floor beside him for a while and rubbed his back. We don't force him to sleep in his bed. I figure he'll use it when he's ready. He also has really bad separation anxiety, especially with his dad. If my boyfriend has to go to work, it's heartbreaking. He clings to him and cries. When his dad finally has to go, he'll go inside his closet and just sit in the dark. I stay home during the day, so it's just me and him most of the time. At first, he barely spoke to me. He'd keep his distance, only nod or shake his head. He started to open up. Now he'll come sit next to me on the couch, and sometimes he'll put his head on my shoulder. He likes to be near me when I cook. He'll stand and just watch. Recently, he started asking if he can help. We make small things together, like scrambled eggs or sandwiches, and I let him stir or hand me things. He started to show small signs of trust. Like if I'm folding laundry, he'll come sit beside me and start folding without being asked. If I leave the room, he'll follow me, but not in an anxious way, more like he just wants to be near someone. But there are still really hard moments. He doesn't eat much, even though we keep telling him he can have as much as he wants. He takes small portions and hides snacks in random places, under his pillow, behind the couch. We don't scold him, we just gently tell him that food isn't going anywhere, that he can always have more. We've gotten him into therapy, and his therapist said it's going to take a lot of time, patience, and consistency. We try to give him structure and reassurance every day. Same bedtime routine, same meals, calm voices, lots of praise for little things. There are moments that give me hope, like when he laughs, really laughs, over something silly, or when he curls up next to me during a movie and just relaxes. I love this kid so much. I never thought I could care this deeply for someone who isn't biologically mine, but he's completely taken over my heart. It's been emotionally heavy. Every day I just want to give him a hug and a kiss and tell him I love him. If anyone has been through something similar, helping a child heal from severe trauma, I'd love any advice or even just words of encouragement. We're doing everything we can to make him feel safe and loved, but I know it's going to be a long road. This situation is absolutely heartbreaking, and at the same time, it reveals the incredible resilience and kindness OP is showing. The trauma that poor boy endured before OP and her boyfriend took him in is beyond imaginable. Being locked in a cupboard, suffering physical and emotional abuse, living in constant fear and punishment. Honestly, that kind of childhood abuse isn't something you just shake off. It embeds itself deep and casts a shadow that can last years, even decades. What really impresses me here is how carefully and patiently OP is trying to build a safe, nurturing space for him to start healing. Those tiny moments, helping out in the kitchen, curling up together during a movie, are not just sweet gestures. They're powerful signs of trust starting to form amid all the chaos. The trauma responses, being jumpy, anxious, terrified at separation, show just how deep his wounds are, and that's not something you heal overnight. This is the kind of intensive, long haul commitment most people couldn't handle. And OP's love, patience, and understanding deserve huge respect. The gentle routines, constant reassurance, and ongoing therapy are exactly what experts say is necessary for helping kids who've been through trauma. It's not a quick fix, it's a marathon. I'm really interested to see what advice or encouragement the community might offer because while therapy is absolutely key, there's something so important about the emotional support from the people right there every day. This post is a powerful reminder. Kindness and consistency are massive forces in recovery, sometimes even more than any treatment. OP is doing incredible work, and the path might be long, but with this kind of care, there's real hope for healing. The second story for today takes place in the relationship advice subreddit titled, I am probably going to die soon. I don't know how to tell my wife of 7 years that I don't want treatment. I don't use Reddit like at all, so forgive me if I don't have all the mannerisms down. I, 27M, went to the doctor for leg pain. I thought it was just a knee or hip problem. Got told I have bone cancer and would be dead in 3 to 6 months without treatment. They said with chemotherapy, I might be able to last another year, but the odds were slim. Another option was surgery, which could add 5 years, but they'd be taking a huge chunk of my hip bone, and it would severely hamper my mobility. It's more common in younger folks, but apparently I'm just lucky. Yay for me. Don't quote me on this. I'm just a dude who half listened to his doctor summarize this all. Look, the truth is I'm not terribly upset. Maybe it just hasn't set in yet. I don't know. I've been sitting on this for about 2 weeks and keeping it to myself. I've never really enjoyed life, which sounds terrible, I know. I'm not suicidal, but if I were in a plane crash, I've always felt like my first thought would be, finally it's over. Let's be honest, living is hard, and it kind of sucks. I'm not suicidal or anything, but I've never wanted to live forever. That said, my wife, 28F, has a plethora of mental health issues. I love her more than anything in the world. I would die for her in an instant. More importantly, I've been willing to live for her. She struggled with suicidal thoughts, depression, and anxiety. She's one of the strongest people I know, but has to deal with some of the worst demons I've ever seen. I've tried my best to help her, and we've made it work for 7 years. 7 years where she has been the highlight of my existence. And I like to think she thinks the same of me. When I got this news, the first feeling I had, after the numbness had faded, was relief. Obviously, there's some fear of the unknown, but mostly relief. But I don't know how to tell my wife. She only just got out of a major depressive rut, and I'm afraid this could tip her back into that rut. On top of that, she would probably tell me to pursue treatment, to fight till the end. I love her, but I honestly don't think that would do anything. If I go through surgery, I last 5 years maybe. 5 years where my mobility will be extremely limited. I'm almost certainly going to lose my job from it, physical labor, and with it, my health insurance. I'm sure there are legal protections, but how far would those extend? I literally wouldn't be able to return to work ever. Best case. If I lose my job's health insurance, my wife doesn't get her meds, and we go back to the depressive spiraling. On top of all that, I'm not sure I could stand to be that large of a burden on my wife. She has plenty of problems, but if I became a cripple, she would have to not only care for herself, which she already has problems doing, but care for me, all while there's a ticking clock over our heads. I'm sure if I asked her, she'd say, of course I'd care for you. I love you, but that's easy to say. In reality, bitterness and resentment would build up. I couldn't support her the way she'd need. I couldn't contribute. I don't think I could bear to watch my wife slowly begin to resent my existence. That scares me far more than dying. With chemotherapy, I last maybe another miserable year of slowly withering away. Not very ideal, and with all the same problems. So, my question is, how do I tell her? I understand I'm being selfish for wanting to just leave, but her receiving my life insurance without mountains of medical debt is by far the most appealing option here. I don't want to hurt her, and I can't bear to be a burden. So, how do I express my reasons in a way that makes sense? I don't know. This is probably a mistake going to Reddit. Nothing to lose. Update. Alright. First up, I want to thank everyone for their advice, their support, their concern for my mental health, and compassion for me and my wife. It's been a wild few days, but I, for one, hate an unsatisfying ending to any piece of hot gossip I come across. So I figured the least I could do was give an update on what's happening, where I'm standing, and clarify any points of confusion that I'm seeing. To clarify, the plan was always to tell her. I only wanted to find the best way to inform my wife of my decision in a way that A made it clear she wasn't to blame, and that this was my choice. B gave her enough room to state her opinion on the matter, and to have her feel heard, and C tried to prevent a complete mental collapse in these last few months. Another point of clarification is regarding my health. I'll try to clear that up here. I have malignant osteosarcoma, high grade, stage locally advanced. It began in the right side of my pelvis and has crossed the midline into the left side. It has invaded both sides of the sacrum, but has not reached any major blood vessels or organs. The sacrum, as I understand it, is the flat, triangular bone that connects the spine to both sides of the pelvis. The tumor being malignant means that it is expanding and eating into the foundation that lets me stand and sit upright. This has resulted in pain in my upper right leg. This is happening because the tumor is pressing on nerves that run from my spine through my pelvis and into my leg. This has resulted in a burning, throbbing feeling. I've seen a lot of confusion on why I don't pursue the surgery. The way it's been explained to me is that surgery cannot remove the cancer completely, as it is on both sides of the sacrum. It's simply too late for that. The operation would mean removing most of the pelvic bone, including the areas that connect my spine to my legs. This would result in me not being able to walk, as the thing propping my spine up on my waist is gone. I wouldn't be able to sit up straight without support. The pelvis is what gives you balance and structure in your sitting position. And again, it's gone. What would happen is I would end up tilting and falling onto one side if I attempted to sit. I would need a specialized wheelchair designed for spinal and pelvic support to remain upright and transfer safely. I would need assistance laying in bed properly, going to the bathroom, and dressing. This would be my reality for at most 5 years. The other thing to bear in mind about the surgery is that it is not a curative measure. It would be a life prolonging type deal meant to remove the bulk of the tumor to slow the spread, relieve pain on the nerves, and avoid complications like fractures, infections, etc. Another point some have made is about prostheses, hip replacements, and prosthetics. I've asked my doctor about this, and they've told me there simply wouldn't be enough left of my pelvis to do this. A hip replacement relies on anchoring itself into a healthy bone. There just isn't enough left to do this. Currently, I am pursuing options to reduce the pain and try to make the next few months livable. Doctors have prescribed for the worst of it, and we are investigating something called palliative radiation therapy, which I think is a kind of mini chemo meant to shrink the tumor for some relief. We're also considering nerve blocking agents, where they deaden the nerves and numb the pain. The doctors have recommended I use a cane for now to keep pressure off my right side. The big update, my wife. The day after my post, I spoke to her that morning after I had made us a big breakfast of her favorite things. Her, knowing me, she refused to eat anything until I explained why. We had a long conversation, and we both called in for work. She was understandably upset, angry, hurt, sad, grief stricken, bereft, mopey, and all the other synonyms you can put on here. At one point, she had become nauseous, and we played the hold my hair out of my face game over the toilet. As I explained my reasoning and how I wanted to proceed, she was understandably angry. She said almost everything I thought she would, that she was willing to take care of me, that I shouldn't leave her alone, that we would find new ways of living. I ended up giving her my paperwork, and we went over it in more detail than I had previously read. To be honest, I was kind of avoiding it. I knew the basics of what was in there, but it was surprisingly difficult to go over it in detail. I had written down many of the suggestions on what kinds of solutions there were for living from this Reddit page, but one by one they looked more and more dire. We had a couples counseling session that afternoon, part of the reason I had told her then, and we had sent word a few hours ahead of what was going on. Our therapist helped me and my wife state our mindsets more clearly, and we were able to make some good progress in the meantime. Our therapist gave us the number for a grief specialist for us to get in contact with before we left. One thing that was very surprising for me was that night when my wife told me she wanted me to get her pregnant. I objected because what the hell? But when a pretty girl takes her clothes off, your brain kind of just goes, what? I had an oncologist appointment this morning. I had this timed out, y'all. I brought my wife with me, and she ended up taking the lead in that particular arena. She had done some research on possible treatments, some of which y'all suggested, and had a ton of questions for the doctor. We spent maybe a good hour there, as we went through all the options, and she explained what was happening to my hip. The doctor was very knowledgeable and patient with us. My wife ended up getting angry a bit, but the doctor was polite and understanding. We ended up spending another half hour in the parking lot of the hospital, as she had a full meltdown while heading out to the car. That was difficult to be a part of. Our plan for today is that she's going to lay down for a bit, gather herself for a while, and then we're going to tell our parents. She's close to both of her parents, and I'm less so. I'm closer to my siblings, I'm the oldest of six. We're going to tell her parents first, which will let them be able to watch my wife for a while before I go and break the news to my own family on my own. Thanks again for all the good wishes, and I hope this can help clear up some of the confusion.